Very good morning to you. It's 11 o'clock in London. The breaking story this morning, at least 6 people have been killed in a shooting in Jerusalem. Several others injured. The Israeli police say the 2 attackers have been shot dead. Let's show you live images from the scene where it is just 1 o'clock local time in Jerusalem. This is the response, the emergency response to the situation that occurred about 10:15 local time. I can tell you that this scene has got less busy as the last hour has gone on. There was a huge response from police and members of the armed forces and military. That was as the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, both visited the scene. They spoke to reporters and journalists who were on site as well. Our correspondent Adam Parsons noting just how close media was able to get to this incident location. It was a number 62 bus at a very busy intersection at the Ramot Junction in the northwest of Jerusalem. It appears that the 2 attackers entered the bus and began shooting. We understand that potentially civilians and potentially a single soldier responded to that development, shot dead the 2 attackers. The identity, the affiliation, the background, the backing of those attackers as yet unclear. But we do know that both Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad have both welcomed this attack on social media, but they have not claimed responsibility for it. We'd previously been led to believe by Israeli police that 5 people had been killed. We heard from the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar, who was speaking in Budapest, Hungary, that 6 people are believed to have lost their lives. And included in the injured is a pregnant woman. Well, responding to that incident was one of these first responders. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I've received a notice from Magen David Adam about a terror event at Ramot Junction. While this is happening, I'm hearing shots being fired as they are neutralizing the terrorists. I basically entered the scene first. I see a lot of people lying down with gunshot wounds. We quickly administered medical aid, life-saving medical aid, and they were evacuated to the hospital.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, like I say, was also at the scene and spoke to the media a short while ago. Let's take a brief listen.
אנחנו במלחמה, מלחמה עצימה נגד הטרור בכמה חזיתות.
First of all, I would like to express my condolences to the families of those murdered and, of course, health to those who have been injured. And when I say we're at an intense war on several fronts, we of course have several successes against the regime of terror and organizations of terror. But the war goes on, both in the Gaza Strip, where we will destroy Hamas, as we have promised, and we will release all of our hostages, but unfortunately also in Jerusalem. Judea and Samaria, we have been very severely active on. The IDF and ISA and Israel police have thwarted dozens of attacks, hundreds of attacks, but not this morning. We are currently pursuing and closing down the villages where terrorists have come from, and we will come after all of those who have helped them and who have sent them, and we will take severe action against them. And I want to say very clearly that these murders, these terror attacks on all fronts, do not weaken us. They only make us more determined to complete the missions we have undertaken in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, everywhere. We are fighting terrorism and the terror regime of the Houthis. We are fighting Iran, who is backing them all. Gaza, Lebanon, Hezbollah, all fronts. We are not stopping, and we will not stop. We will intensify our actions, and we will achieve all of our goals. Thank you all very much.
As we see the live scenes there of the aftermath of this shooting, we're just hearing the words and reaction there from the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Our security and defence analyst, Professor Michael Clark, is alongside me. And Michael, Benjamin Netanyahu there referencing their mission, the Israeli government's mission in Gaza, referencing the Houthis in Yemen, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Iran. This points to what you were telling us a few moments ago in the last hour about this mindset in the Israeli government at the moment and how this incident will be factored into that.
Yeah, it's all of a piece in the way that the Israeli government sees it. And interestingly, I hadn't heard the Netanyahu statement until just now. And Gideon Saar said the same thing a few minutes before, but obviously Netanyahu had set it out very clearly. He said, look, this is about Gaza, it's about Hezbollah, it's about what he calls Judea and Samaria, the West Bank in international law, occupied West Bank, but it's Judea and Samaria to him, to Netanyahu, and it's about Iran, who is behind all of this, I think he said, and it's about Yemen. So it's the whole region, and this is Israel, in Netanyahu's view, fighting for its survival. Some of us would say it's fighting for its enlargement, but his version of it is it's fighting for its survival. And you can see there is a sort of consistent thought behind that, and he wouldn't put it in those terms or say that unless he was confident that he's getting a sort of permissive nod from the White House to take that view. He never got on with Joe Biden or before that Obama or even George H.W. Bush. He feels as if he's got Trump's backing for this project to remake the Middle East on the basis of the atrocity that occurred on October the 7th, 2023. Interestingly, if the Israelis really are fighting a 4 or 5 front war, the strains are beginning to show in their armed forces. I mean, they've called up 60,000 reservists to the latest Gaza operation in Gaza City, and they expect to have to call up another 60,000 before the end of the year. So they'll have 120,000 reservists serving, mainly backfilling. A lot of them will be in this area, in Jerusalem and the West Bank, so that the whole of the army, more or less, can go into Gaza and occupy the areas that they need to occupy in southern Lebanon against Hezbollah. So you can see that the IDF are becoming stretched because they're fighting on so many fronts. They had the luxury to start with of fighting on one front at a time, more or less. But undoubtedly, if they carry on doing this, they are going to find that they will be stretched. And the attackers in this case, they must have known they were going to get killed. I mean, this was obviously a suicide mission to get on buses with weapons and start firing. They must have known they'd only get a few minutes before they were killed. And so what were they trying to do, other than express their anger, Palestinian anger, of what's been going on, I assume? But probably, if you could have said to them, what are you trying to achieve? They'd probably said a third intifada. They're probably trying to achieve, again, an atrocity that will create the reaction on behalf of Israel to create an uprising across the West Bank.
Michael Clark, really appreciate you joining us. Just one breaking line to bring you, understand from the Reuters news agency that the Israeli military says sirens have been activated near Eilat. That is Israel's southernmost city. It sits very close to the borders of Egypt and Jordan. They say those sirens activated because of, I quote, a hostile aircraft. Cannot tell you any more details about that, but that comes as we see the live scene there in Jerusalem, 1:08 local time. According to the country's foreign minister, 6 people known to have been killed in that shooting. More details to come through the course of the day, but we'll step away from the Middle East and remind you there's plenty more stories and plenty more information and background on that situation on the Sky News website and Sky News app. You're watching Sky News. It's 11:26 in London, 1:26 in the afternoon in Jerusalem. A reminder of the day's developing story. At least 6 people have been killed in a shooting in Jerusalem. Several others injured. The Israeli police say the 2 attackers have been shot dead. These are the live images of the cleanup operation that's commenced very quickly after this incident. Well, let's take you to when it all began and hear from one of the first responders.
I've received a notice from Magen David Adam about a terror event at Ramat Junction. While this is happening, I'm hearing shots being fired as they are neutralizing the terrorists. I basically entered the scene first. I see a lot of people lying down with gunshot wounds. We quickly administered medical aid, life-saving medical aid, and they were evacuated to the hospital.
Well, whilst this has been occurring, Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has been in Budapest in Hungary and responded to the incident.
We are in a war with radical Islamist terrorism. Europe and the international community, every country must now make a clear choice. Are they on Israel's side or are they on the side of the jihadists? We know Hungary is on our side. We completely reject the current attempts to force Israel to accept a Palestinian terrorist state in the heart of our tiny land. It will not happen. Those terrorists came this morning from the PA territories. And the establishment of such a terrorist state would have one goal only: the elimination of the State of Israel. It must be made clear: the Palestinian Authority has never disconnected from its support for terror. It rewards and encourages terror with its pay-for-slay policy for terrorists and their families. As much as the crime is more severe, they are paying more. It continues its incitement against Israel and Jews in schools, textbooks, mosques, and their media. Based on its actions, the PA does not deserve a state.
That was Gideon Saar, the Israeli foreign minister. About 25 minutes ago, the Israel Defense Forces posted on social media on X that sirens were sounding in southern Israel due to hostile aircraft infiltration. That was over the southernmost city of Eilat, which borders both Jordan and Egypt. We then heard that, according to the Reuters news agency and the Israeli military, that a drone that had been launched from Yemen had been intercepted. Within the last few minutes, for a second time, sirens sounding in southern Israel due to a hostile aircraft infiltration. That's the turn of phrase being used by the IDF. Let's bring in our security and defence analyst, Professor Michael Clark. Michael, two instances of sirens sounding in the south of the country. The first one seems to be linked, the IDF say, to a drone launch from Yemen. This would be the Houthis.
Yeah.
Making the most of the opportunity of kind of relative kind of disruption in Jerusalem?
You would assume so,
right.
Gareth. I mean, this all happened in Jerusalem, 2 or 3 hours ago now. And the Houthis are very good at seizing these opportunities. I mean, if there has been a launch from Yemen, it's got to be them. Interesting that it would be drones. They could get drones into the air quite quickly. A ballistic missile or a cruise missile, which they still have, we believe, would take them longer to prepare. So sending a couple of drones against Eilat would be logical from their point of view, because they claim and still claim that they are the only group in the Arab world who are actively supporting the Palestinian peoples. Everyone else, they say, has failed the Palestinians, and we, are still doing it. And they're getting a lot of credibility on the so-called Arab street by doing that. I mean, the Houthis are a very, very questionable group in every respect, but they're earning some easy brownie points within the Arab world by striking Israel. But they're paying a price for it.
Well, the leader of the Houthis struck in an Israeli strike, 10 days ago?
That's right. The Prime Minister was killed. Yeah. I mean, al-Houthi himself is still alive. And I mean, the Houthis are a tribal grouping, and they are still supported actively by Iran. The Iranians, we know, are still sending them material. Less than they used to, but they're still sending them some of the things that they want. And the Israelis hit back very hard. When Britain and the United States were hitting Houthi targets last year because of their attacks on shipping, they were hitting very specific targets. That is the launching areas from which they were launching some of the missiles against ships. And to be honest, the British and the Americans, they're running out of targets to hit or targets to find, because these things are mobile. The Israelis didn't have any such scruple. They just attacked Hodeida. They attacked the port. They attacked some of the warehousing, some of the shipping. Now, that does a great deal of damage to Yemen in general, where most of the population, or at least 60–70%, are dependent on food aid, which comes in, most of it comes in through Hodeida. But undoubtedly, this will, I'm sure this will happen again. I don't believe the Israelis would leave these attacks unanswered, so probably there'll be some quite heavy attacks onto southern Yemen, maybe in Sana'a, in the airport in Sana'a, or maybe in the centre of Sana'a, maybe in Hodeida. But that's Israel's policy, is not to be too discriminating about where the attacks come from. Just hit the Houthis hard every time they do this. And I would imagine that they might do that again. And
it's remarkable when you think of just how many fronts of operation the IDF and the Israeli government are kind of pursuing at the moment, because if you think down in the south, you've got those operations against the Houthis in Yemen. If you look to Syria, they're occupied Golan Heights. Well, far beyond that now, there's military outposts overlooking Damascus.
That's right. They're on
military activity.
Mount Hermon. So Israeli forces are on Mount Hermon, which is inside Syria. It's not an Israeli territory, but they've occupied it. They occupy the area on the border, I mean, literally the buffer zone of the Golan Heights. So the Golan Heights is Syrian territory legally. That was occupied and then annexed by Israel, and now they've moved into the buffer zone on the annexed territories and are, playing a role now in southwestern Syria. And this is the point I've been making for some time. I mean, the Israelis have been very skillful and undoubtedly and very militarily competent at achieving what they've achieved. And some of their intelligence operations, the exploding pages against Hezbollah was a masterstroke. And some of their operations against Iran have been absolutely brilliant in intelligence terms. But they've walked themselves, I mean, consciously, this is what they have clearly intended, into a 3 or 4 front war to take on all of their enemies at once because they think the 7th of October attacks created a new situation. And I think they're probably right about that. A lot of us said at the time, the Middle East won't be the same again after these dreadful attacks of the 7th of October. And Israel has seized that opportunity to say, yes, we are going to remake the Middle East and we will take on all of our enemies at once. Now, tactically, they'd like to do it one at a time. Anybody would like to take them on one at a time. But unless you can defeat your enemies one at a time, they're all there at some point. So you end up taking them all on simultaneously at some level. And that's where Israel is now. They seem happy about that, or at least they seem to accept the reality of that. But undoubtedly, the IDF is stretched. And the IDF command structure is not overly happy at all about what it's being asked to do in Gaza because it just doesn't see what the military point of what it's being asked to do. And I don't think, for instance, this push on Gaza City, I'm not sure that that anyone's fighting back. I mean, I've been looking at casualty figures. I mean, the Israelis, since the beginning of their ground operation in Gaza, lost 450 people to combat deaths. They've only lost 1 in the last 5 weeks. So I don't think anybody's shooting at them. What is happening, I think, I mean, nobody knows because the international media are not allowed in. But what I think is happening is the Israelis are going through their kill list of the Hamas people that they want to get. And when they identify them somewhere, they bomb that building. And then they occupy the area and they clear it, and that takes time. But they're going through, as it were, destroying the buildings of Gaza City. But I don't think that, although Hamas certainly still exists, I don't think Hamas are shooting. Otherwise, I think there'd be more Israeli casualties. And so what we're seeing is this military operation, which is achieving more rubble. I mean, as I often say, they're bombing the rubble, and they're going to create more rubble in Gaza City and bomb that. And the Israeli military themselves are saying, why do you want us to do this? What is the political outcome? And still, nobody is prepared to tell them in Jerusalem what the political outcome is going to be.
You talk about political outcomes. We saw political reaction to the scenes in Israel earlier this morning. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, going to the scene of the shooting and speaking to the media. Let's take a listen.
We are at war, an intense war against terrorism on several fronts. First of all, I would like to express my condolences to the families of those murdered and, of course, health to those who have been injured. And when I say we're at an intense war on several fronts, we, of course, have several successes against the regime of terror and organizations of terror. But the war goes on both in the Gaza Strip, where we will destroy Hamas as we have promised, and we will release all of our hostages, but unfortunately also in Jerusalem. Judea and Samaria, we have been very severely active on. The IDF and ISA and Israel police have thwarted dozens of attacks, hundreds of attacks, but not this morning. We are currently pursuing and closing down the villages where terrorists have come from, and we will come after all of those who have helped them and who have sent them, and we will take severe action against them. And I want to say very clearly that these murders, these terror attacks on all fronts do not weaken us. They only make us more determined to complete the missions we have undertaken in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, everywhere. We are fighting terrorism and the terror regime of the Houthis. We are fighting Iran, who is backing them all. Gaza, Lebanon, Hezbollah, all fronts. We are not stopping, and we will not stop. We will intensify our actions, and we will achieve all of our goals. Thank you all very much.
Let's bring in Tal Schneider, political correspondent at the Times of Israel. Good to have you with us. Appreciate you sharing your time. What do you make of what you've just heard and seen from the Prime Minister there?
Well, I think this government specifically is failing in the Israeli people, because we have never seen a period of like that where you have people being killed on the streets every day. And just want to beg to differ with the former person who spoke. There is also fighting going on in Gaza, where the terrorists are still fighting and they're still shooting at the Israeli soldiers. So we have casualties there. Obviously, it's not as harsh as it was at the beginning, but they have mass tunnels, and there is all sort of activities and killings on the Israeli soldiers inside Gaza. And for those people who were murdered today, they were just commuters. It's like a rush time in Jerusalem. People were traveling on a bus, civil people on a bus, and the terrorists went up on the bus and just started to spray. And there's 6 people who were murdered this morning while traveling to work.
We heard from Benjamin Netanyahu that operations were taking place in and around Ramallah and the West Bank. What more can you tell us about what the response has been so far from both the IDF security forces and also from politicians?
It's too early to tell. I don't know to tell you, because we don't know from whereabouts those terrorists came through into Jerusalem, but it's high alert, obviously, and people on the street in Jerusalem responded. There was a soldier there who was also traveling on the bus, and he was the first one to respond. And people saved, they saved their brothers and sisters by pulling people out and helping them. But, obviously, I mean, we have, like, as you mentioned, 2 UAV coming in this morning, people in Jerusalem shooting on a bus. And in Gaza, there is activity, according to what we hear, which is very harsh this morning. What does the
events such as this do to kind of people's state of emotions? Because, like you say, also the reports of these 2 drones being fired from Yemen, we assume from the Houthis, although they've not taken responsibility yet, but that would be the working assumption, targeting the south of the country, Alat, the southernmost city. As we're looking here, this footage this morning, 6 dead. What's that doing to kind of psyche and emotions of ordinary Israelis at the moment?
It's very difficult. One of the drones yesterday hit a southern airport inside the terminal, where people were staying out of, coming out of their flights, like an internal flights. So the drone yesterday hit a terminal. People got wounded. The entire building shattered. The glasses shattered all over. It's very difficult. You cannot really, go on like that. It's daily here, where you're being attacked from so many places. And I mean, we are approaching the 2nd year anniversary of the biggest massacre the Israelis have ever known, where the terrorists slaughtered people in their homes, in their beds. They took 250 people into Gaza. They're still keeping 50 of them. 20 of them are still alive. The tunnels, the IDF was not able to deal with the entire tunnel system. It's like a huge tube, underground. So I think the atmosphere here is very, very difficult. And the government, I mean, it's unbelievable. They're probably unable to do anything.
What is the level of public support or otherwise for the government of Benjamin Netanyahu at the moment, considering what you've just laid out?
There's like 70% support to end the war in Gaza in exchange for whole hostages. That's the big thing here. It's a national, theme at the moment. There's tons of people in the streets protesting against the government. They want to end the war. I know there's a lot of discourse around the world about ending the war. The Israeli people, they want to end the war as well, in exchange for all hostages. I mean, not just, ending it. And Netanyahu, polling suggests that he's unable to form a coalition, but because elections are not tomorrow or next month, then this is just polling. I mean, it can change very quickly, and I cannot predict anything. But, if you look at the current situation, there is no support for this government. It's obvious.
Tal Schneider joining us live from Tel Aviv. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
11:42, you're watching Sky News. Gareth Barlow with you. Still to come, we track down the woman at the centre of a hit-and-run theory investigated by police in the Madeleine McCann case.